What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, and today we're going to be looking into Rodrigo Bentancur. There's been some rumours that Spurs they are in negotiations to extend Rodrigo Bentancur's contract, which is much to delight to some fans, dismay to some fans. And we're going to...
Well, he's been pictured, I don't know if you've seen, there's a picture doing the rounds of him doing some media with Tottenham.
Yeah.
So there's rumours that it's already agreed, but obviously there's nothing confirmed. Ali Gold confirmed that there is negotiations for a new contract with 1 year left in the summer.
So, I mean, some fans would agree with it, some fans would disagree with it. We'll get into our opinions in a minute, but we're just going to crunch into the numbers and see how he's been doing this season. I mean, on the bare face of things, in my opinion, I think we need better, and I think that it's been very hit and miss from him this season, and I do feel that he's still kind of trying to work his way back into full form. And I think the injuries have massively hampered him, and the stop-start nature of his Spurs career over the last couple of years have really hampered him. And when you look at his form before the injury, he was one of the top performing midfielders in the Premier League. Well, I don't think you can say that anymore.
No, and it's really meant he's lacked consistency in this play. It's really hampered kind of his recovery because he obviously had a bad ACL injury under Antonio Conte and was absolutely flying at that point. He'd just come back from a World Cup where he'd been brilliant for Uruguay. He's really performing very well for Tottenham as well. Had the ACL, came back from the ACL, then was out for another 2 months with an ankle injury on his first game. Has kind of come back from that. He's had a ban for comments he's made outside of football. He's had 2 concussion spells out as well. So it's really been a frustrating period for Bentancur ever since coming back from that ACL injury. This season he's played 19 games. Last season he played 23. So he's still kind of not got that much the game time maybe you need to kind of get back to your best potentially in that time.
I do feel like when you're looking at him in this particular role, in what he's playing right now, I'm not sure if it's a natural fit for him. When you're looking at his role, which was in the Conte system, I feel that was a role that he was probably much more used to and much more adept at playing, and I think that suited him a lot more.
I mean, the role he's playing now is one, he did play for Juventus, so it's not something that's alien to him. But when he plays for Uruguay, he does it, especially when he played in the World Cup. He seemed to be a bit more of a 8 kind of box to box, and they played, I can't remember who they played, maybe Valverde or someone else. They played someone else in the number 6 position, kind of as the deepest, maybe Ugarte, maybe that was it. But my only point is this isn't a position that's completely alien to him, because at Juve he was definitely playing this kind of position, and obviously they won a lot of trophies when he was there. If we're looking at kind of how he stacks up this season in terms of like the numbers, we've got a graph here showing him kind of profiling as a deep-lying defensive midfielder this season. Look, numbers are pretty good this season. The one thing that maybe is not great is he does get dispossessed a lot. That's the one that's a bit low. Passing wise, fairly strong, gets a few passes into the final third. Progressive passes is good. Pass completion 84th percentile, so that's pretty decent. Amount of touches he gets is quite good, so he's not afraid to get on the ball. He has a lot of touches in that position, and defensive numbers are pretty decent. Aerially he's good. Percent of dribblers tackled is above average, not amazing, but it's still above average, 65th percentile. And tackles interceptions is quite strong actually, 83rd percentile. So he is getting involved in a lot of duels. But I have drilled into those numbers a bit, and it does seem to be made up a lot of interceptions as opposed to tackles, which is still good, but obviously. Maybe he could be getting closer to players and things like that. I think that's what we've seen on the pitches. He's quite good at reading the play and intercepting passes. But when it comes to a play on the ball and him getting a tackle in, sometimes he can get overrun a bit, I think.
Yeah, and I feel like that number there, that's really low in terms of the amount of time he's dispossessed. I think that's really important to look at, because when you're the deepest lying midfielder, you can't be dispossessed a high number of times. Otherwise, it's just going to put so much pressure on our defence. And I feel like he does lack a bit of care on the ball sometimes. And I think that kind of stands up to it. And it's not just him. I think Bissouma is pretty similar in that aspect as well. And when you've got 2 of them kind of showing similar traits, I think that shows, a midfield that is wide open at times.
Yeah, I agree. And I think definitely, if I look at the Bournemouth game recently, he was just losing the ball constantly in that specific game, and it was very, very frustrating to me. That's something he needs to really cut out of his game. obviously we're looking at why we're thinking Tottenham are giving him a new contract. So I guess what we want to see is evidence of maybe improvement from last season, as maybe what in comes into their thinking as to why they think maybe he can get beyond the level he's currently at now. Because let's be honest, he's been inconsistent. He's had some good games, but he's also had quite a few poor games. But last season, there was clear, I think there's been, I would say for me, from what I've seen from the eye test, last season, apart from obviously the very first game he came back in, where he got injured in, he was quite poor when he came back, I thought. But this season, again, it's been stop-start for him, but there's been some decent games and some poor games. But I guess we'll look at what the stats maybe suggest when it looks like how he's played this season compared to last season. And if you bring up that graph, the red is kind of last season and the blue is this season. So definitely lots of improvement, I would say, when it looks on the barefaced facts of it. In terms of, you can see the dispossessed, you see last season way lower. So he's actually getting dispossessed a lot less this season than last season. What's really encouraging is those defensive numbers at the bottom. The tackles, interceptions are higher. The percentage of dribblers tackled a lot higher this season than last season. Percentages of aerial duels won, which is quite important, especially when teams are playing long balls into our final third. You need a defensive midfielder who can really win those headers, a lot higher. The only real things he's down on are through balls, which you don't really expect from him anyway. The other things are very similar in terms of progressive passes, passing to final third, on the ball. So what I can gather from this is on the ball seems to be fairly similar to last season, which it looked like from on the face of it wasn't a bad standard. But what's been big improvements are those defensive numbers, which is quite encouraging, I would say from last season.
I would say when you're comparing to last season he was obviously on his way back from an ACL injury. So I think last season was a particularly bad season for him, and you kind of can give him a pass for that because he is on the mend from a very serious injury, and then he got another injury on his first game back. And I think last season he was literally just recovering from, and we all know that an ACL injury can take a long time to recover and take a long time to get back to your very best. And I just still don't think, even since then, we've seen him at his very best. I think we've seen him have good game in spurts. We've seen him have good games every now and then. But I think over the long stretch of a time, when you're looking at his season as a whole, I don't think it's been great. And I'm looking at him particularly in like the big games, in the games against the Villas, against the Liverpools, in the Cups. I just look at those games and I'm just like, man, it's just been horrific from him in these games. But look, he has had an improvement on a whole from last season. Don't get me wrong, because I think he has improved and I think he is going in the right direction. But I just question whether we can ever get him back to his full best that we saw him before the ACL.
But not just last season, he had an interruption. This season as well, he's had many interruptions, hasn't he? When it looks like he's getting into the groove, then he's been hit with certain things, 2 concussion injuries, and he obviously had an 8-game ban as well, which kind of halted a lot of his progression.
Correct,
potentially.
but it's very different with these things than coming back from an ACL injury.
Right, but that's my whole point. His recovery the whole way through has been disrupted, hasn't it?
No, it's true, it has been. But the stop-start nature, I mean, the concussion's not his fault, but the ban was very much his fault.
No, it's fine.
He's doing it, he's, detriment to himself pretty much.
I know, but that still doesn't negate the effect the ban has on how he's recovered from this injury. I just feel like he's never really got a consistent kind of crack at it. Kind of ever since that run, but ever since before, the injury. But I think even this season, after just like we're talking about, I'm looking at the stats here. We're talking about 13 in terms of like just minutes played. He's played 19 games. He started 16. In terms of minutes played, he's played the equivalent of 14 games. That's what we're judging him on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not a massive sample size, is it? To be fair.
No, it's not. And even last season, I don't know what the minutes were last season, but it's probably fairly similar to that. I think last season, in terms of minutes...
And last season, it's the equivalent of 11 games.
Well, that's it, even less. So in the last 2 years, he really has not played that much football whatsoever. But when I'm looking at him and when I'm seeing him on the pitch, it just doesn't fill me with confidence that he's the guy to take us forward. I mean, I think he'd be all right as a squad player. I'm not sure if the lone 6 is really a position that completely suits him in a kind of gung-ho style team. I think whenever we have someone next to him, and like when we used to play that double pivot, I think he looked a lot better than when he plays the lone 6.
Well, yeah, that was obviously when he was next to Højbjerg. I just think it's more of a case of obviously.
No, even this season we played a double pivot at times.
Yeah, we have. I think it's more of a case in terms of for him when he's also come into a team that's struggling, that he's playing alongside a lot of players who are struggling for fitness and these kind of things. Maybe he has to do more running than he should be doing. He's covering for defenders, playing out position, all these different things. So I think, yes, he's had problems, and there's been inexcusable performances like that Bournemouth one, which I thought was horrific. But I think there are also times, for example, you're looking at that Liverpool game, you're looking at the Villa game. It's just very difficult under those circumstances he's been put in, especially when he's had the season he's had. He's recovering from injuries, returning from bans, he's returning from concussions, all these different things, and he's had to quickly get back up to speed while still really probably feeling the effects of that ACL amongst all of this. Is he fully over? Is he fully back to where he was before the injury? Still probably not. So my only point is there's signs that he is improving under these circumstances, and maybe they're feeling like give it a bit more time and he'll get there. That's maybe what they're thinking.
I think they're thinking that, but I think that's more of a kind of maybe a cheap fix to the problem when we know we need a proper big number 6 to come in and take us on to the next level, whether that be Johnny Cardozo, whether he can come in and straight away do the business is, a different question altogether. But we need someone to come in and take this midfield onto the next level, and whether that be as Bentancur as the understudy. I mean, I don't have a problem with keeping Bentancur around as like a rotation option, but I think if we're going to use him as like our starting midfielder in that position, I just don't think it's going to take us onto that next level.
That's fair, but I do think we are looking at that, we're looking at another player in that position with Bissouma probably leaving. So I do think he's going to be signed knowing that he's going to have competition next season. Just quickly look at, I looked at the graph. I know it's a bit different because he played a slightly different position under Conte than he does now, but this is a graph comparing his stats kind of pre-injury to how he's looked this season. This was like that 22-23 season. And I think the passing and the touches is a bit more irrelevant.
Red is the Conte season.
Red is the Conte season, blue is this season, yeah. I think the touches and the passes is a bit different because obviously we were passing less, weren't we? I think the main things you want to look at is kind of the percentage of dribblers tackled. That's like the amount of people he's tackling when they're taking him on. Tackles, interceptions, the amount he's dispossessed. They're still a bit higher when he was under Conte, but although he does seem to be catching up a bit at the moment. Tackles, interceptions, actually, he's just overtaken it. But you see, dribblers tackled percentage is quite significantly higher under Conte, and dispossessed is slightly higher under Conte as well. So defensive numbers, it seems he's still, not quite there yet, but it's not a million miles away, I guess. Percentage of aerials one is a lot higher now. But amount of progressive passes he makes is a bit higher, but as I say, we're having a lot more possession and we're on the ball a lot more, so it's a bit different. But I think defensive numbers is quite interesting to compare. I would say.
Look, it's fair enough, and I think if you're going to ask me out of him and Bissouma which one I would prefer to keep, it's definitely him over Bissouma. I think Bissouma has been, I think you got to say, Bissouma over the course of since we signed him, I think you got to say he's been a flop signing.
Yeah, he's definitely not lived up to what we would hope he'd been, and then he's shown flashes of what he can do. And obviously, it looks like it's going to be a choice between those two because I just don't think we're going to sell both. But it looks like Bissouma is going to be out on it. Well, look, the evidence suggests if we're giving Bentancur a new contract, I'm assuming Bissouma is going to be out of his way. If we just do a quick comparison of the two, just to see why we think we've chosen Bentancur, you can see at the moment. Bentancur does really this season, by the way. It probably looks a bit different last season, but this season you can see Bentancur really does outperform Bissouma in all these kind of metrics at the moment, apart from Bissouma actually says here loses the ball a bit less at the moment than Bentancur. And apart from that, Bentancur's either very similar or outperforming Bissouma.
That's mad to me that Bissouma loses the ball less than Bentancur. Because Bissouma loses the ball a hell of a lot.
I would say maybe, obviously it's quite close anyway. It's not a million miles away. But as well, I think Bissouma probably loses the ball in worse areas. I think Bentancur loses the ball a lot when he's like trying things a bit further up the pitch, whereas Bissouma seems to lose the ball a lot like when he's facing his own goal.
We just need someone that basically doesn't lose the ball that often when we're playing a number 6. We need someone that has real care on the ball and just, like these top number 6, they barely ever lose the ball, like barely ever. And that's what we need from our number 6. So that's a stat that really worries me for both of them, Bentancur and Bissouma. But back to my point where I was saying about Bissouma, I look at him as a flop signing. I don't look at Bentancur like a flop signing. I look at Bentancur like he's been a solid signing for us. But I still think there's a need to get better.
That's fair, but look, with the year left on his deal, it looks like we're going to be signing him up to a new deal. Nothing confirmed yet, as I say, but I guess the question is that a good decision from Tottenham, or should we just, say, look from the evidence, we haven't shown enough, we haven't seen enough improvement to suggest you're ever going to be good enough for us, or do we see enough improvement to suggest just give it a bit more time and we're willing to see if you can get back to that level?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm thinking of what I would do with Bentancur, I wouldn't sign him up on like a long-term deal or anything. I wouldn't give him like a 3 or 4 year extension. I would either let it run to see how it plays out, and or I'll just try and offer him like a 1 year extension or something like that.
I think I would offer him a 2 year extension. Give him so it goes to 3 years. See how he does, and then in another year's time you'll have 2 years left. If there's not enough improvement, with 2 years left you can sell him again. Go and sell him. So I think that's kind of how I'll do it. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't think how much they're going to give him or whatever. I guess we'll wait and see. But it's also, he's a very popular guy around the dressing room. I think they all really like him there. So I think,
don't they like?
Yeah, true. I don't know. I think everyone gets on, to be fair. So I guess I like the fact that we're backing him in a way, because I think I want to see us I want him to get back to how I know he can play, and I do think he is improving, and I do think we haven't seen the best of what he can reach post this, all the problems he's had. He just needs to, get that consistent run of games and not have all these stoppages that he's had, and I do think we'll see a better Bentancur. But right now, the barefaced reality is we're not seeing it enough, and that needs to change if he's going to be here long term.
Yeah, also in the reality, like if we were to get an offer of 20-25 million in the summer, you probably wouldn't and he was to go, like you probably wouldn't be that upset.
No, to be honest. There'll always be a lingering question like what if, to be honest, but if we can get a decent offer for him and he wants to leave and we're happy to take it and we can reinvest that, then I'm also open to that as well. Yeah, for sure.
Like if we were to sell him this summer, let's say this summer, is he going to go to what kind of a club is he going to go to? Like, is he going to go to a big club that's in Europe? Like, is he good enough to play at that caliber on a weekly basis?
I think so.
Like, what kind of club?
What kind of club would he go to? I don't know if he goes to any of. I don't think we sell him to any of the top six in England. But if, let's say we sell him abroad, I think some of the good teams. I don't know about Madrid and Barca, but I think some of the good teams.
Madrid and Barca.
You're asking me what club?
Yeah.
I'm saying maybe an Atletico. Maybe yeah.
Come on.
Why not? I think he's good enough for that. I think
No
maybe
chance.
why no chance? Maybe some of the top clubs in Italy. I think he could play for any of the clubs in Italy. To be honest, I don't think there's any club he can play for.
I mean, Juve sold him because they didn't want him anymore.
Yeah, I know, but I think he's a good player.
And Atletico's midfield, they've got Conor Gallagher there, they've got Rodrigo de Paul there, they've got Barrios there. I mean, he's not better than any of those players.
Right now, he's not, but we know at his best he could be as good.
Nah.
Yeah, why not?
Because these players are like some of the leading midfielders in the world at the moment.
And so was Bentancur before his injury.
Yeah, for
not
a
in his world,
small
not in the
period of
world.
time.
I mean, I don't know who's leading in the world there. Maybe De Paul, but look, maybe not Atletico. I'm saying he can go to a very good club. My only point, I think anyone in Italy he could go to.
I don't see him going to a top tier club.
I do.
Really think he goes to a top tier?
I don't
club?
think anyone in England would sell to, but I'm saying if we go abroad, I think he goes to not Madrid or Barca, as I said, but anyone under that. I think anyone in Italy could be in for him for sure.
I think maybe like an AC Milan, probably the highest caliber club.
I think anyone in Italy, any of the top, like Napoli, I wouldn't be surprised if they're interested in him.
Yeah, Napoli he could go to.
Like Inter,
because Napoli sign these kind of players for sure.
Wouldn't be surprised if Inter in for him. I don't think he'll go back to Juve right now, but I think in terms of Spain, maybe apart from the top three, anyone there, apart obviously Bilbao who can't go to anyway. I would say anyone there would be interested. I don't think he goes to a bottom half team or anything like that. I think he goes to a good club. I think there's some
Like
good teams being for
Inter
him.
in that position, they've got like Barella and Kalinoglu. Like I don't think he gets into that midfield either.
They play depends. Sometimes they play 3. He could break into that team. I wouldn't be surprised if they're interested in him as well. So I think he goes to a good team if we sell him.
Yeah, I do think if he's going to go to Italy, I think it's a Napoli or an AC. To be honest, I think I could see Conte re-signing him. So I think Conte very much likes him. And you're looking at their midfield of like Gilmour, Lobotka, McTominay, these kind of guys. He does get into that midfield. I agree with you there, but I just don't see him going to like a top tier club. But look, that's our thoughts on Rodrigo Bentancur. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Would you like to see him get that new contract? And if so, for how long for? Or would you like to see him sold this summer? Let us know your thoughts. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always,
Come on, you Spurs.